Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Krashy, and today I have a pretty interesting topic for y'all regarding Unite. So this post from Almost Mamba came up yesterday, and it says, "What's a Unite hot take that'll have you like this?" It's got this stupid, I think his name's Kevin James, like meme photo that's been going around. This stock image, I think it's so funny. I've seen it a ton though, so it's getting a little overused, but it actually sparks some pretty interesting conversation. First and foremost, I loved my response. I said Krashy was right. Definitely a Unite hot take. Kinda. But Spraggles actually jumped in today, and I saw some really fun back and forth conversations, and I wanted to give my thoughts. I'm going to read you my response to his thought, and then I want to read through one of the like back and forth chains specifically to kind of give my thoughts about that conversation that Spraggles had with someone in the community. So he said, almost no one knows what they mean when they say fix matchmaking, and if queue times go way up to find these perfect games, then Unite dies almost instantly. So there's going to be a lot of me disagreeing with Spraggles in this. But hear me out. Nothing I say is to like try to dunk on him or disprove him or anything. It's just perspective, right? Like he has a perspective about skill-based matchmaking. I've heard him talk about it in the past, matchmaking. I have a perspective on it, and I want to give my thoughts and my kind of insight to how I view it and what I think is kind of at play here. So I'm going to give my thoughts. I'm going to read my tweet. And then, yeah, let's go ahead and dive into a lot of that was said. So I said, what, in quotes, because this is what it means. People often, and this is true, people often simplify. They oversimplify everything. It's not even good feedback. And so I do it, everyone does it, but you have to give good feedback at the same time. So we can talk about the, in quotes, fixed matchmaking, which is definitely true. Like it's a fair thing to say, but it doesn't say enough. And I think that that's important. So what, in quotes, fixed matchmaking really means is that Unite needs to completely redo, I should have said redesign, the ranked mode into a system that more accurately represents your skill. That's the first thing. This is not actually matchmaking related. This is rank system related, but since the rank system is so in tune and directly in touch with the matchmaking, it is hand in hand important. So what I'm saying is no more performance points, no ranked protection cards, no more bot matches, and no more climbing to high ranks with negative win rates. That is fundamentally redesigning the ranked mode in order for the rank that you get to mean more. Now, this is going to be important later on when Spraggles is talking with another member in the community, because he's kind of saying at one point that ranks don't mean anything, and he's right. That's why this is a cornerstone of what fixing matchmaking has to be. This point has to be implemented, because in order to fix matchmaking, the game has to know what to use to match you. And what it uses is hidden MMR, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But on the surface, we see ELO, master points, your rank, ultra, veteran, whatever. That's what we see, and that's what needs to also be visually represented when it comes to matchmaking. So you have to get rid of that system that just inflates the shit out of everybody's rank, because in that system, in the system that we have and have always had for 2 years, is a system that doesn't accurately rank you. Everyone's masters. There's two types of people that play Pokemon Unite ranked. Someone that doesn't play enough, and masters. That's it. Those are the only two types of people. It's not true, but you get the point. Once this is done, then you can tune and tighten the matchmaking parameters based on these new ranks, more appropriate win rates. So what matchmaking actually is, the actual term matchmaking, it's a set of rules. It's a computer program that has a set of rules that's operating. That's all it is. Now, what the set of rules is currently is make a game fast, try to keep it balanced in terms of MMR. That's pretty much all it does. It's not good rules. You need stricter rules, you need more serious rules, and sometimes you even need rules based on the MMR that you're trying to match. It technically does have rules for party size and stuff like that, but that's not really going to factor into my conversation too much, because I'm going to talk about the fact that we need solo duo queue anyways, which is also technically party size is a part of matchmaking because it's matching the party sizes. So it is a matchmaking discussion, but it's kind of almost like a separate thing as well. So I said it also needs to be better they also need to better manage the hidden MMR when a season starts, because we saw that, I think this season and a season in the past, where Chris Heroes, Bruv, etc., their hidden MMR didn't get reset, so their matches were super weird. They were playing with really low MMR people because, again, if you're creating averages, let's say their MMR is 2,000 and they're playing with a bunch of 1,000 players, that's bad because that's a huge discrepancy in skill, or at least in hidden MMR, whereas the other team might fall on that average number. So it's a really, really big difference. So they also need to make sure that they're properly resetting MMR on reset, because that's when everybody's rank comes down. So the MMR needs to also come down to kind of correlate with that. Now, I said fixing matchmaking means to fix all of ranked in a sense. So while we're at it, let's go ahead and get a solo duo ranked mode. So that way matchmaking will only ever create games with 10 players solo or duo. Now, this is important because matchmaking is also pairing party sizes, like I said. And so solo duo is important because, one, it's the only way to have a really true competitive ranked ladder that's not 5-mans. There really is no competitive 3-mans, 4-mans in any MOBA ever. You get solo duo, and sometimes it's solo only at high-end ranks on certain games, or you get 5-man competitive. Now, true competitive is obviously 5-man, but that's not what ranked really is. It's like the emulation of competitive. So usually solo duo or solo only is the best way to go about it. This is also another matchmaking variable. So when it comes to actually changing the parameters of matchmaking, having a solo duo only mode kind of helps with that, because then it doesn't have to worry about party sizes as much as it does now. So solo duo is super important. I said that's what, in quotes, fixed matchmaking means. And if done correctly, queue times would only increase at the highest ranks, because the rank ladder should appear as a bell curve. We're going to come back to that point in a little bit, because talking about queue times when it comes to matchmaking is super important. So let's go ahead and find Spraggles and Just Dan Designs, or Black CH. He said 10-minute queue. 10-minute queue is better than having to play 10 minutes with young Timothy with leftover Cinderace on Masters. It's also their own fault to kill standard mode with bots, because people can't really play for the fun. And then Spraggles, so we're going to read into this thread right here specifically. Isn't it better 10-minute queue equals, it isn't better. 10-minute queue equals dead game. Now, I think that the kind of rudimentary thinking on this type of thought from Spraggles is that it would be a 10-minute queue for everybody. But that's not really true, because when the masses of the players wouldn't be able to get to the highest of the ranks, they would kind of sit in the middle somewhere. And that's where we're going to talk a little bit about the bell curve. And sitting in the middle would mean that the majority of people are actually in range to be matched with each other reasonably fast. So for most players, I'm talking 95% of players, maybe even more, 98, 99% of players, their matchmaking wouldn't change at all. They would queue up, they would get a pop, they would play that game would be much more reasonably matched. So it might increase a little bit, but we're not talking minutes, you know what I mean? Like if your queues are on average between 1 and 3 minutes now, your queue's going up to 4 minutes or 5 minutes. Maybe, assuming that the player density in the game is decent, which in Pokemon Unite, there's quite a bit of players, so I think it's decent. So it's only going to be 10 minutes if you're high elo, 1% of any game. Every other elo is probably going to be seconds or 3 minutes max. Yeah, so I agree with Black CH here. It's really not going to increase that much. So I'm going to kind of try to follow this thread best I can. All right, so I had to kind of follow a different thread because it jumped into a different one that I meant to follow. So this one says, why isn't LoL dead then? Spraggles says 30 to 60 minute PC game, very different. I agree. It's not really applicable to this conversation, but we're going to jump into the continued conversation between Black CH and Spraggles. So he said, Omega Strikers, Brawl Stars, Wild Rift, Clash Royale, the higher you go in these games, the more skilled players you get. Therefore, quality of matches increases and climbing gets harder, not because your teammates hold you back, but because you play people of your skill level. This is the basis of what every ranked mode is. Ranked, and I've talked about this in the past, what is ranked? It's testing your skills against equal, relatively equal skill level players to prove that you're better than them to climb. That's what it always is supposed to be. It's a test of your skill against the people that are also around the same skill reasonably. It can't be around the same skill and then it's everybody in the pool of players. That's not around the same skill. So it has to be tighter. And so Spraggle said, I'm confused. Are we talking about matchmaking being skill-based, or are we talking about time right now? And he said, we are talking about you assuming that fixing the matchmaking will make queue times 10 minutes long, which is not true. This will only apply to 1% of the player base, which is the high elo. Like literal queues would be as fast for everyone else. This is absolutely true. Again, I'm going to show what a bell curve is. So this is what a bell curve is essentially. Now ignore the numbers, right? Maybe I could find a better one. This is essentially what a bell curve is. And let's say right at the peak up here, this is like gold rank in any ranking system, or it would be veteran, right? The majority of players are not going to be at the very bottom of the ladder because they're going to actually climb and get reasonably high up or rank up some. But the vast majority of the player base is not going to be down here at, 1600 plus masters either, or way over here at 1600 masters plus either. So people in here, the matchmaking parameters could be pretty wide, right? It could be like a range like this big, maybe like a couple ranks, because these players need to rank up and have games that they can play to prove themselves, but also the majority of the player base is going to be toward the center. And where everybody is, the vast majority of the player base is going to be here, all of these queues are going to be relatively fast. Maybe it's a bucket right here, maybe it's right here, maybe it's right here, maybe it's right here, or maybe it's the entire thing, which I don't think would be great. You'd probably want to do it like in, bigger chunks like this, half of the curve. But the point is that for all of these players, their queue times aren't really going to improve or increase that much because they're still playing reasonably with a lot of people around their skill level. It's just not so split where one person from over here gets thrown into this match and one person down here gets thrown into this match. And that's the matchmaking we have now, where this curve is basically non-existent and it's a linear line where everybody just ranks up to the highest, and then you have a match at the top, right? Where everybody's at the top because everybody's a masters, because nobody's special, because the system is built that way. This is what a bell curve would look like in a ranking system that actually has an actual rank system to it. And therefore, the vast majority of players around this section of the actual ranks, veteran, ultra, I can't think of the ones before it, would have reasonable matchmaking where the people over here would have longer queues. Absolutely so. And anybody that's good at video games and good at ranking systems or has played any kind of games that have good ranking systems, they understand that. Down here, longer match times, or longer queue times. So I'm trying to understand this, but I'm confused. Why would the queue time stay the same for most players? At what point are you expecting the game to start more narrowing pairing players? And BlackCH said at all points, players should be paired with their actual MMR, and it should be extremely hard for people to hit Ultra and Masters, which would be like GM and Challengers and LoL. Therefore, everyone would be pairing with people that is like one elo above or below, and that's what I'm talking about. You would have pairs of people and like buckets of players where they're reasonably matching in and out of their rank a little bit, because you have to have people that are slightly lower and slightly higher than you to have matches where there's like a probability, one chance for team to win, but you don't want it so wide that it's just an uneven lopsided match, or where even it's like a mixed match where like you have a super high tier Masters player playing with an Ultra, because that just doesn't make sense, and that's shit that happens now and it's terrible. So at all stages of ranking in a bell curve system, in a ranked mode that is plotted out where it would lead to be a bell curve because it's hard to rank up, you would have reasonable matches until you like for people to prove themselves, right? Like you may have a Masters level player at the start of the season that has to grind his way through, but he'll grind his way through because he's going to win the majority of his matches. So Ultra and Masters aren't real things, though. They are titles inside a game that are completely arbitrary. Pairing players off of a more strict MR will drastically increase queue times, and you'll forfeit things like games with good ping, etc. It takes a massive player base to have this work well. So this is where I think Spraggles is maybe slightly missing the point about needing to change the ranking system. The ranking system has to be changed, and why it was such a big part of my main point over here, because he's right. Like, these things aren't real things, but you need to make them real things, right? Like, being an Ultra and a Masters player doesn't really mean anything in the current system. In a system that's plotted and built to be harder, where you have to be more consistent, you have to win more, you have to have a positive win rate, it does mean something. So it's simply a matter of design and a matter of choice. And so when you look at Pokemon Unite's matchmaking and rank system, this is what I'm talking about. After 2 years, there is no room. Listen to me, because this is where I'm going to get passionate. There is zero room to make excuses for why the system is bad, other than to accept that it is a choice for it to be bad. Now, it's subjectively bad, because what is bad? Is it bad to have longer queue times for high-rated players? Maybe, but guess what? It's also bad for high-rated players to have shit matches. And is it bad to have slightly increased queue times for everybody in order for them to have a more fair match? Maybe, if your point of the matchmaking, or if your goal of the matchmaking, or if your goal of ranked is to have people spamming games and have full retention. So it's bad in terms of it being a rank system, but it's good in terms of like play density and maybe player retention and keeping people playing. But that's why all standard matches also need to be incentivized, and we need to refix and restructure standard matches. And the way that you do that is you incentivize playing standards with challenges, and you remove all bot matches from ranked and standard. It's not a matter of being as simple as saying, oh, they need to fix matchmaking. That's the blanket thing that you say when you're trying to get to this conversation. But that's never really been the conversation. The conversation is you need to fix standard, You need to remove bot matches from all of these matches. It needs to be an opt-in thing only. You need to incentivize standard. That's partially how you fix it. You need to redo and redesign the ranked mode. You need to incentivize the ranked mode with seasonal rewards that are prestigious and worth grinding for. And you need to change the matchmaking after you've done all of those things to better reflect fairer matches with the fairer ranks that people are earning with fair win rates. And that's the point, right? That is the point. So Black CH says, game already puts you in a different region if you queue for more than a single minute. It will only drastically increase for the 1% of the player base, and 1% is not even a realistic number, as Challenger and LoL combined with Diamond Masters and GM is not even 1%. Spraggle says, okay, so you want a system redesigned and dedicated to less than 1% of the player base. Why would they spend time on that? That sounds cool for a few players, but I'd rather they focus on things that help more players. And he said this would essentially help everyone, because this way the casual players, the consistent players, and the high elo players won't queue into each other, making it more friendly experience than for everyone overall. For example, if you're casual, why would you ever queue into a world champions? This is the truth. When you try to make a case for what is better for the players, well, what is better, right? Like, what is the answer to that? Is everybody being masters better for the players, or is having more fair, more skill-based games better for the players? And I think that there's a subjective way of answering that question, because I think that someone that knows they're not really amazing at the game might say that they don't want the system to change, because then they won't hit masters. But I challenge the competitive side of a ranking system, and I challenge what a ranking system is, truly proving to yourself and working really hard to earn something. And so there is a layer of subjectivity to it, but there's also a layer of objective thinking when it comes to ranking systems, because what is a ranking system? And I will always come back to that point. What is a ranking system? A ranking system is a system designed to pair you with humans of similar skill, so that way that you can prove that you are better than that skill range and outrank them. That's what a ranking system is. So if your subjective understanding of what is better for the players is for every single player to hit masters, you are the problem, not the way that we think. And the system is a problem, because that's what it does. So when Black CH says this would essentially help everyone, it's true, because everyone would be in better matches for their actual skill level. Would everybody hit masters? No. Would everybody feel good about not being able to hit masters? No. Earn it. That's what a rank system is. So Spraggle says, I get it, and tighter matchmaking sounds good, but it will just lead to the same things it does in other games like Smurfs and such. The game needs a way bigger player base to make this really work, IMO. It's also like really low skill players out of higher level games. I'd also like really low skill players out of high level games. He said the game already has a Smurf account problem. I myself have 3 Smurf accounts, and so does most of the people in Float. As for the bigger player base part, you can only achieve to making things right, like removing bot, making standards playable, matching no OP Mewtwo. So it's kind of like a chicken and the egg argument, right? Like, it's great to try to make the matchmaking better, but the truth with matchmaking is, 1, there's no such thing as perfect matchmaking, not in any game ever. It's never happened. 2, matchmaking does improve with more players. That's the fact. But then you have to kind of pause there and say, well, what brings in more players? Good matchmaking and a good ranking system, or dumb shit, right? Like, where's the chicken and where's the egg? I would argue that having a better ranked experience, that having better balance, that having a better system or standard playlist for players that just want to play casually to play and actually work for it, removing bot matches, no bot matches, having better monetization, having better, more affordable skins. I think that having a better product retains players, and that includes the ranking system. So chicken and the egg, personally for me, the better the game, the more retention the game's going to have. And you know, to try to kind of dissuade, or not dissuade, but to try to push away the fact that the matchmaking could be improved because you need more players, it seems like a backward way of thinking for me personally. Spraggle said, there's a lot here. Bots are a whole thing we could get into. It's true. I mean, I can summarize it pretty quickly. Remove them unless you opt into it. That's the bot discussion. I don't think that there's a lot of room for bots to be forced on a player, on a human being, ever. Like, if I want to play bots, I'll queue for it. I don't think that you need to ego boost people. I don't think that you need to handhold them like that. I think that it's fine. I don't think that standard matches should be riddled with bots, but I also don't think that standard should be a barren wasteland of no players either, because there's no reason to play it, because ranked is so casual. Standard needs players, which clearly they don't have enough of that in mode. We've talked about that a little bit. Matchmaking could for sure get better, but it's way more complex than people think. I do think it's way more complex than people think, but it's not really that complex. And we're going to recap here in a second. Balance is important. I agree. Bots are good. Bots are good, I agree. I was into them when I started HOTS. I think he meant to say aren't good. It's a really cool side of the game to learn. That said, you have to separate them from ranked and standard. I stopped playing because most of my games I get are bots. Yeah, so let's do a little bit of recap and kind of share my thoughts. Ranking systems are synonymous with skill-based matchmaking. They are. That's the whole point. It is literally the point. If you're playing ranked and you're not trying to actually see where your skill level is and then go from that point and improve, you're playing the wrong mode. It's just the way that it is. You're supposed to join the rank system so that way you can prove yourself. The only way for a rank system to be good is if it actually takes skill to climb in it. And the only way for the matchmaking to be good is if that system reflects skillful players at every rank, right? Accurately reflects players at those ranks and then matches them tightly, but not too tight. If the matchmaking is too tight, then you don't get matches. If the matchmaking is too open, then you get bad matches. So there is definitely a balance, and there's no perfect matchmaking. I've talked about that. The matchmaking does get better with more players, but the game being a better product is what retains more players. I think that I'm 95% in line with what Black CH says here. I think that, conceding that ranked in Pokemon Unite is not supposed to be, or you know what? I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that conceding that ranked in Pokemon Unite is not supposed to be serious and competitive. Ranked in gaming is not supposed to be casual and silly. It's supposed to be serious and competitive. And whether this game is marketed at the Pokemon community, it's meant to be a casual take on MOBAs. I always said this, and some of you have been watching me for a long time will have heard this before. If you're going to do anything, do it right. If you put ranked in your game, do it right. If you have a competitive scene, do it right. If you're going to build draft in your game, put it in fucking ranked. Again, I want to end off on this last point. There is zero room. Listen to me when I say this. There is zero room to make excuses for why these systems have been this bad, for this long. Zero. It's not a coincidence. It's a fucking choice. If Timmy Studios, Tencent, and Pokemon Company didn't want this specific outcome, it would not be happening. It's not that they don't read content or comments. It's not that they don't listen to content. It's not that they don't fucking know. It's that they fucking choose. And you get to vote with your wallet. So, to all of you who keep spending money, quit complaining. And to everybody else, enjoy the game like I do, which is very little. And for the fun of doing shit like this, right? So friends, drop a like on the video, subscribe for future Pokemon Unite content, hot takes, etc. I appreciate your time. Hope you're doing well. As always, be sure to be kind to one another. Tell someone you love them. And I'll see you on the